Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 4 of English 3010 Online. So, we're getting ready to transition this week. You guys just finished turning in Project 1. Phew, that's over. And we're going to get started this week on Project 2. So, I just wanted to take a minute before we get into looking at the project description and going over our weekly assignments and tasks in this video. And I wanted to pause and talk a little bit about the whole semester, like a bird's eye view, a drone's eye view, if you will, of this whole semester English 3010. So, as you may have guessed at this point, one of the things we're really focusing on is the concept of discourse community, right? You're like, I'm so sick of that term. Well, buckle yourselves in because we're really going to dig into it. But the cool part is that we're not just talking about discourse community as some abstract idea. We're thinking about each one of your chosen majors, the field you want to go into, basically the answer to the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? We're thinking about that as a discourse community. Or, as Wordle complicated it for us, we could think of it as an activity system, or as Wenger calls it, a community of practice. You could term it or name it any of those things, but we're thinking about the community that you want to be a part of in your professional life. And we're making that the subject of our reading, writing, and inquiry this semester. So, of course, Project 1 couldn't give us every detail of every discourse community. It was too fast. Really, the purpose of it was to sort of give us a quick snapshot. So, you may still think that there are things about your discourse community you don't quite understand, and that's okay. That's good, actually, because Project 1 was like a telescope. We're looking at the whole vast array of ways that people communicate in our discourse community, picking out a few constellations if we see them. Now, as we get started on Project 2, what you'll notice is that we're going to switch from a telescope to a microscope. And we're going to pick one aspect of your discourse community, and we're going to slide it under that microscope. We're going to pick a genre of writing and slide it under the microscope and look very closely at it. Then, going on forward in the semester, you'll notice that we're going to settle into more of a traditional inquiry-based research sequence, but with this foundation of a wide-eyed telescope view and a really up-close microscopic view. We'll be able to springboard or launch into your own research projects for Projects 3 and 4. So if you ever have any questions about what we're doing or where we're going or what this has to do with anything, please feel free to ask me. Shoot me an email, come by my office. I'm always happy to talk about it. But for now, let's get into the project assignment description for Project 2. Okay, so bye Project 1. Hello, Project 2. I'm in weekly tasks and assignments, and I'm opening the Project 2 folder. And the first thing I want to do here is talk to you guys about this assignment. We're going to go through, I'm not going to read it word for word. You guys can do that on your own time. But I just kind of want to say, maybe in my own words, what this project means, what it entails, and we'll go through the description step by step. Then we'll talk a little bit about your weekly assignments, and that'll do it for this video. Okay, so Project 2 is what we call a genre analysis. Now, you may have done a genre analysis before if you had that assignment in your English 1020 course. If you did take English 1020 here at Wayne State, you definitely have done a rhetorical analysis. Now, a genre analysis and a rhetorical analysis are cousins. They're very close, though they focus on slightly different things, right? A rhetorical analysis is looking at the effectiveness of the communication. Does it work? Is it successful or not? Is it targeting its audience, etc.? A genre analysis is basically just looking at the piece of writing to see what is it? How is it? How is it laid out? What is it consisting of? What's common to it? How does it communicate what it communicates? So here, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is a genre analysis that is essentially, and I'm calling you back to middle school here, it's essentially a compare and contrast. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by that. So you're going to be reading and analyzing professional and scholarly genres, particularly the peer-reviewed journal article. Now, many of you are already familiar with this. Some of you were rearing to go, even like finding peer-reviewed journal articles for Project One, which is awesome. This project is going to ask you to choose a peer-reviewed journal article from your chosen discourse community that you focused on in Project One, and a peer-reviewed journal article from another discourse community, mine. So what I'm doing here is I'm providing you guys with some samples of peer-reviewed journal articles from my discourse community of rhetoric and composition. You're going to choose an article from your discourse communities, and you're going to compare and contrast the two journal articles to see what do they have in common, what are some key differences, and then the analysis part comes in by really getting into why. Why might a Rhet Comp journal article look the way it does? Why might a journal article from your discourse community look the way it does? What is it about the differences in the discourse communities that accounts for the differences in the written genres? What are similarities between the discourse communities that account for the similarities in the articles themselves? So, again, I'll provide you with some articles to choose from writing studies within rhetoric and composition. You're responsible for locating a peer-reviewed article from your own discourse community. So this will take a little bit of secondary research on your part. And I will say that if you have a research question in mind, start looking for articles in that area. Only because the more closely you can align Project 2 with your research interests within your discourse community, the better it's going to launch you into Project 3. So it may be beneficial for you to start reading into a research question that you have burning in your brain. If you don't have a research question, don't worry. Use this project to sort of read curiously until you find something that maybe piques your interest within your discourse community. So if you need to, grab a library staff member within your research guide, which of course you found in Project One. You need to find representative peer-reviewed articles, just one for your major, and then you'll choose one from the ones that I offer you guys. Now, the paper itself will essentially have an introduction and a body, with the end part of the body serving as kind of a reflection/conclusion. Now, here's the thing with the genre analysis. The easiest way to start is with identification. Genre analysis is, yes, about identifying the features of the genre. What makes this genre what it is? What makes this chemistry article a chemistry article? What makes this Rhet Comp article a Rhet Comp article? Now, that's the easy way in. You start identifying features, everything from format, layout, to tone, sentence structure, paragraph structure, citation formatting. All of these things fall under the category of identification, and this needs to be part of your body. Then it gets a little more difficult because then you need to get into analysis. Now, analysis is more than identifying the elements to the text. It means considering how and why those elements are there. So this is going to be a little bit of reverse engineering on your part. Once you've identified these elements, you want to think about their purpose. How are they put there? Why are they put there? What's their function within the discourse community? The last paragraph or two of your essay should be a reflection that pulls together what you've learned from your identification and your analysis work. Altogether, that's going to equal 1,000 to 1,250 words, approximately. I don't take off points if you go over in your word count, just FYI. I never take off points for writing more. Are you kidding? That's my writer's heart right there. But this gives you sort of a ballpark figure, right? My word count estimates just basically give you a framework for how in-depth the analysis needs to be. Make sure that you're using the citation style for your discourse community that you identified in Project 1. And then we'll continue with our grading system. You can see the rubric here. You can look at the learning objectives that we're using here. So if you have any questions about any of this, please email me. Come by my office during office hours. We can talk about it. Hopefully, as we get into our activities for this week and next week, things will start to fall into place. One of the things that I believe in strongly about teaching writing is that if I can take a complex task and break it into smaller tasks, that helps us to be able to take it step by step. So, as you can see this week, of course, watch the week 4 video, which you're already doing, and read the following. There's a couple of chapters in the Wadsworth Guide for you to read that should help you with both thinking about writing processes for different genres and will help you think through some more aspects of secondary research. If you're feeling pretty strong in your secondary research skills, just skim chapter 4. But you need to read at least one of the following articles. This Devitt, Bawarchi, and Reif, very famous seminal article in my field, Materiality and Genre in the Study of Discourse Communities. I cited it in my dissertation. Here's Harris's The Idea of Community in the Study of Writing, and Miller's Genre as Social Action. You could also, if you decided to, you could work with Wardle's Identity, Authority, and Learning to Write in New Workplaces, which we looked at in Project 1. It's up to you. But you need to pick one of these 4 articles as your anchor text for Rec Comp. You're going to analyze one of those 4 texts, and then you're going to compare it to one of the texts from your discourse community that you're going to pick. So that's the last thing to read. Be reading and choose by the end of this week, you should probably have it chosen, one published peer-reviewed journal article from your discourse community. So, in terms of the schedule, by Wednesday, at least get your Wadsworth stuff written and shoot to write this reflection journal number 3, which is kind of like a post-Project 1, pre-Project 2, checking in with the learning outcomes of the course reflection journal. You can really do it at any time, but Wednesday's probably a good open day. There's no other writing due. Then get your reading hats on. By Friday, aim to have identified your article and chosen and read one of the Rec Comp articles that I've provided for you, so that by Sunday, you can post blog number 4, which will be a reading response. Just like we've done with the other reading responses, what I want you to do here is be able to summarize the reading. So that means Chapter 2 of Wadsworth, Chapter 4 of Wadsworth, the Rhett Comp Writing Studies article that you chose, and the article within your field. Now, these all have very different content. I understand that. Some of them are talking about pragmatic processes. Some of them are going to be talking about research. Some of them are going to be talking about very detailed experiments versus case studies versus theory. I understand that. Now, your job is to put all of those articles in conversation with each other. Some of you did this phenomenally well in your first 2 reading response blogs. Keep going. You're doing awesome. Some of you, I just want to push you to make sure that you get that conversation in there. How do these readings connect with each other? Why on earth would Vardy make us read all of these wildly different things this week? What can you take from that experience into Project 2? All right, now, just a reminder, your reflection journal is linked here under week 4's schedule. So is blog 4. If you have any questions about any of these articles from Rhett Comp, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email. Stop by my office. I love talking about this stuff. This is my jam. Otherwise, lots of reading to do, a little bit of writing to do this week, and stay warm out there. Have a great week, everybody, and I will see you next week.